Hello, and welcome to Connecting and Listening to Vulnerable Families during COVID-19. We know that school closures have affected all families, but this time has been particularly difficult for those families who are already struggling with economic insecurity and other barriers. I'm Dr. Judy Carson, and this short video presented by the Connecticut State Department of Education is for professionals who are working in schools and community programs and want to strengthen their connections with vulnerable families. Building relationships between schools and families has always been important for children's education. But now that home is the location for learning during the pandemic, relationships with families have never been more essential. I'm joined by my colleagues, Shelby Pons, Agnes Quinones, and Tallarita. We will be sharing a framework for defining and planning high-impact family engagement strategies for at-risk and vulnerable populations. And we will discuss strategies for serving low-income families in after-school and summer programs, immigrant and bilingual families, and highly mobile and homeless families. Along with this video is a list of resources that's going to be available on our website. We'll have more information at the end of the video on how you can access those resources. To begin, let's define family engagement from the family's point of view. To develop Connecticut's framework, we conducted focus groups with parents from around the state, where we asked them what family engagement meant to them. They told us that family engagement is a full, equal, and equitable partnership among families, educators, and community partners to promote children's learning and development from birth through college and career. Why is this definition important? Well, in Connecticut, schools and communities have been working on building partnerships with families for a long time, but we've never had a common definition. And we may mean many different things when we use this term. And importantly, we have not had a conversation with parents themselves about what family engagement means to them. I want to highlight the word partnership for a moment. Families told us that word partnership was much more meaningful to them than the words engagement or involvement, because partnership meant that families and schools may have different roles, but they have equal status. To families, a partnership perspective means that families are engaged in every aspect of their children's education, and they work together with schools to remove systemic barriers that prevent students from succeeding. Turning now to listening to families during COVID-19. We find that the programs that are most successfully engaging families right now are not only listening to families, but also learning with families. We have important information from national and state studies identifying what families are saying, and particularly vulnerable families. With schools closed, surveys are finding that parents' concerns about their children's education are weighing more heavily on them than even economic worries. Low-income families are being affected at a disproportionate rate during this crisis. And you can see in this chart that their concerns for their children's education are even greater than those concerns of families in general. This is not to say that families do not have economic worries and are not concerned about social and emotional needs. They are. But it does illustrate how important education is to all families. When we also listen to what families are saying they need during this time from schools, they're asking for frequent and two-way engagement and specific examples of what their children are learning. They're also asking for individualized communication specific to their child and how to support their child's learning at home. As a side note, families are saying that though there are many platforms being used for communication, that text and email are the best ways to communicate with them personally. They're also asking for equitable access to materials and distance learning, including devices and internet connectivity. Interestingly, these needs that are being surfaced now during the pandemic line up exactly with what the Connecticut definition found, that full engagement, being equal partners, and equitable access are key to families. Parents are defining family engagement now in the same way they defined it prior to the pandemic, indicating that they have long valued a true partnership with schools. Let's talk about the how of family engagement. In building the Connecticut framework, we ask families what family engagement looks like when it's working well. Taking what we learned from listening to families and the best research on family engagement, we crafted a set of guiding principles. And the purpose of these principles is to help professionals develop effective strategies for engaging families, again, with particular attention to families who are most vulnerable. At the foundation is trust and respect. A relationship can't exist without trust and respect, and two-way communication based on listening is essential to building that trust and respect. This is a concept you're going to hear again from my colleagues throughout this presentation. Next is linking family engagement to student learning. This is exactly what families are asking for during this pandemic. Much of what happens in family engagement traditionally has not been linked to student learning, and that's a missed opportunity and something that families are requiring as they're moving into this role of educating their children at home. And finally, co-developing cultural competence is another of the guiding principles, and this is an important word, co-developing. Families want to work with schools to develop their confidence and competence in understanding how schools work, and also to share with families their culture and language. And finally, support for parent leadership and helping parents advocate for themselves and their families. We have illustrations and specific examples of high-impact family engagement in several areas in the Connecticut framework. One of the areas we feature is after-school programs because they're a key partner for low-income and vulnerable families. I'm pleased to introduce my colleague Shelby Pons, who oversees state and federal after-school programs for the Connecticut State Department of Education. Shelby's the State Director of 21st Century Community Learning Centers and Extended School Hours programs.
Okay. I will now be talking about how to adapt after-school and summer programs for low-income families due to the impact of COVID-19. State and federal after-school funding is primarily distributed to communities where there is a high concentration of families that live below the federal poverty line. This includes schools where 40% or more of the students are eligible to receive free or reduced price meals. The effects of living in communities of concentrated poverty include lower scores in academic achievement tests when compared to children living above the poverty line, health issues including asthma, diabetes, and depression, and higher levels of stress and behavior problems. These programs traditionally provide their students with a number of supports, including academically enriching activities and mentors who care about them and who they can look up to. Many programs also provide parents additional opportunities to become more involved in their child's education, offer supportive services for entire families, and give parents peace of mind when they are at work or looking for work. It is important for after-school program directors to continue to think creatively about how to support our most vulnerable students and families. For many of the students engaged in after-school programs, seeing a familiar face virtually or hearing a familiar voice may be a powerful factor in their well-being socially and emotionally during this time. Students and families in your community look to you as out-of-school time providers as trusted and caring adults. During times of crisis and trauma, our efforts to build connections and relationships with students becomes even more critical. While social distancing limits our ability to give hugs or high fives, we can still ensure that our students feel seen and heard. As parents are beginning to head back to work or thinking about virtual learning coming to an end for the year, they are also trying to figure out where their children will be during the day and or what will keep them engaged at home. And at the same time, you may not yet have all the answers about what summer or after-school programming for the fall will look like. Keep parents informed of your decision-making process and provide updates on your timeline for decision-making. The worst thing you can do from a customer service standpoint is just say nothing. Lack of communication can be very frustrating to parents who are already dealing with stress and uncertainty. Communicating with families is challenging due to the impact of COVID-19 on after-school and summer programs. Staff can no longer talk with parents at drop-off or pickup. Opportunities for interaction are more limited. With these changes also comes exciting new opportunities. The good news is, in our technology-rich world, our approach to parent communication can be stronger than ever. Writing emails, texting, or even using is a great way to communicate. Clear, continuing, two-way communication is imperative. There are many apps that are popular for voice communication that can be adapted for communicating with families. Google Voice allows staff to communicate with families through texting or calling without giving out their personal number. This may be more accessible to some families. Please keep in mind when planning for and developing remote learning opportunities that equity needs to be a consideration. Programs must support all students to engage them in meaningful and productive learning opportunities. It is important to reach out to your families to ask them what types of supports they need and how to best communicate with them. While use of technology is one means of connecting with students and families, programs should also consider ways to support families who may not have access to technology so they may continue to remain engaged offline. Engaging students and families offline may include providing grab-and-go materials such as art supplies, kits for hands-on projects, providing culturally and linguistically relevant books, a scavenger hunt around their home or neighborhood with the appropriate social and physical distancing, design challenges, provide materials for letter writing or artistic creation for a family member, friend, medical professional, or an older adult in a nursing facility. We realize that not all programs have established the ability to host virtual classrooms, but for those that have the ability to connect virtually, this is a great opportunity for after-school staff to provide homework help. Many of our vulnerable families rely on the assistance of the after-school staff in order for their children to complete their homework. Now, with all schoolwork happening at home, that help is needed more than scheduling. Dedicated students can log into a virtual classroom to see and communicate with a trusted adult who can support them through the completion of a difficult assignment is a great resource during this time. Some examples of ways in which technology may be used during remote learning or to simply just connect with students and families include group video sessions or calls, one-on-one phone or video calls, virtual family bingo, virtual hikes, virtual yoga, and virtual exercise classes. Please make sure to include district and school administrators while creating your services from a distance. It is important to align with their goals and policies. Next, we will hear from Dr. Agnes Quinones, who will be sharing strategies for serving immigrant and emergent bilingual families. Agnes is responsible for state after-school, PMHP, LEAP, and FIRST Robotics programs.
Thank you, Shelby. I'm Dr. Agnes Quinones, and today I will be sharing some strategies to support immigrant and emergent bilingual families impacted by COVID-19. Immigrant and emergent bilingual families, and by that we mean families who speak multiple languages but are not English language dominant, face many challenges, such as a different culture, a new environment, a different language. Families oftentimes leave behind their support systems, extended or immediate families, their community, their churches, their homes, causing added stress and fear of the unknown. COVID-19 has definitely heightened these challenges. Oftentimes, families' degree of vulnerability is heightened by their lack of trust given by perceptions, limited access to services, and support systems, so they find it very, very difficult to ask or seek help. Trust and respect play a key role in helping families to develop meaningful relationships with you as staff members in your schools and communities. What can we do to support our immigrant and emergent bilingual families? You can think about providing resources, and the resources having to be in multiple languages. if you have any type of materials, they need to be age appropriate and they need to be in the language of the families. That creates a bridge so you can continue to build that meaningful relationship of trust and respect. Try to communicate with families in any way, shape, or form that you can. And by that I mean translating important information using simple words, being creative and flexible, learning a few words in the family's dominant language that goes a long way, and also producing a list of community-based organizations and local support agencies that you can share with families. It's very important that you do that in a meaningful, creative, and flexible way, because the goal here is to gain the trust and respect of the families so you can support them better. Reassure parents that it's okay to ask and seek help. Encourage them to ask questions. Make sure that any type of information that you provide them is very accurate and personalize it, including names and phone numbers of people that work in the community-based organizations that you're sending them to get help. Be honest about your own limitations and the role that you play. Make sure that you tell them exactly what you can and cannot do. In putting together some resources, provide a list of community-based organizations and local support agencies that you can share with families. And if you can, translate that list as well. Where do you go for additional resources? Please go to the Department of Education's resource page and you will find a list and links that will provide additional information as to how can you best support immigrant and emergent bilingual families during COVID-19. And now I would like to introduce my friend and colleague, Luis Tallarita, who is the consultant for highly mobile and homeless students and families.
Right. Gracias, Dr. Quinones. Families that move around frequently may not have a strong support system to which they can turn to in times of crisis. Youth who are on their own may not have a caring adult to call upon for advice or information on how to keep safe and stay healthy. Among the population generally associated with higher rates of mobility are migrant workers, military and immigrant families, as well as families experiencing domestic violence, unstable work, and home situations. Now, during COVID-19, a family's or youth housing may be considered unstable due to work issues. For example, emergency and essential workers that enlist housing separation for their children's safety, or health issues or concerns, such as the isolation, hospitalization, or other situations that prevent housing to remain the same as it was prior to COVID-19. And many families and youth may likely fall into homelessness due to current economic stressors caused by this pandemic. So what educational rights and supports are available for students who may be experiencing homelessness or housing instability during the COVID-19 crisis? The federal McKinney-Vento Act requires all school districts to ensure access to public education for children and youth experiencing homelessness, including the choice of school, comparable services, and removing barriers that prevent their success in school. This federal law remains in full effect. The Act includes a broad definition of who is homeless that includes unaccompanied youth, or youth that are not living with a parent or guardian. With schools and early childhood programs closed and students and families moving around more frequently due to COVID-19, maintaining connections may be difficult. What can schools do to stay connected with families and unaccompanied youth experiencing homeless during this pandemic? The Connecticut Family Engagement Framework and Guiding Principles for Building Partnerships with Families provides recommendations and guidelines on reaching out to and communicating with families. Using this framework, school districts should consider employing strategies that not only share information, but also provide opportunity for listening to what families and youth are experiencing during this challenging time. Sharing strategies may include employing the use of all available communication methods that combines email, phone, texting, regular mail, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and other means simultaneously. Reaching out to any emergency contacts that are listed on registration forms, and consider contacting classmates for any updated information on where students may be if you have not been able to connect with them. Once connected, stay connected. Develop regular check-ins to identify what supports are available to stay safe, healthy, and engaged in school. And post flyers, brochures, and posters throughout the community, especially in grocery stores, pharmacies, and other essential service locations that offer who to contact in schools if homelessness or housing instability is present. Listening strategies can include make sure that all district communication link families to the programs and services they are interested in. This includes websites and social media pages where information is rapidly changing and expanding frequently. Use the distribution points for food and learning packets as an opportunity to not only share information, but to inquire upon needs or on the progress that students are having with adapted learning strategies. When technology is not available, provide parents and youth with what they need to stay in touch, such as prepaid cell phones, tablets, laptops, and connections to Wi-Fi. Most importantly, encourage families and students to stay in touch and always be sensitive and respectful of housing circumstances. What resources are available to help, and where can you go for more information? Districts may consider the use of Title I Part A funds, including both the homeless set-aside and regular Title I funds. A reminder, homeless children and youth are categorically eligible for Title I services. Any districts that have been awarded McKinney-Vento funds may consider reviewing and revising these funds for COVID-19 related expenses. The Supplemental CARES Act federal funds will be available soon to school districts, and funding should be targeted to help meet the needs of children and youth experiencing homelessness. Check with other local education agency and early childhood programs to see if funds can be used to meet the unique needs of preschool-age children or for youth that may be living on their own. And ask for help from the community at large, including philanthropic and other local supporters. COVID-19 crisis requires all of us to think creatively about how to carry out responsibilities to help all students and families, especially families with some of the added vulnerabilities that we shared here. Resources are available at the Connecticut State Department of Education website, including an accompanying resource document to this presentation. And please feel free to reach out to any of our presenters here with any questions or for more information. On behalf of my CSDE colleagues and myself, thank you and stay safe.